Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. We're going to Sichas Chelek Aleph, Shemos. Let's get into it. So basically, we're discussing the concept that why was the decree, the Pari said to the Egyptian, he said, Kol haben hayelud hayayet hashechu v'chol habas chayun. Says all the boys, send them into the river, and all the girls you should keep alive. The question is, why didn't he say that? Just say all the boys you throw in the river, and the girls didn't say anything, and then we know that you don't have to throw them into the river. So why did he say and keep them alive? So I was saying because that was also part of the gzera, part of the decree. Meaning the decree was the boys sent into the river. And the second decree was that the girls should live. And really the Rebbe is saying, and we went into this a little deeply, that the girls being alive means you should raise them in a secular environment, in a Mitzrayim type of environment. That's the point. And even more, and on a deeper level, all the boys sent them to the river, Kol ben was the river. So in the physical sense, it means put them into the river and to Chas V'Shalom kill them. But on a deeper level, it means tell them what was the river, what was the Nile. The Nile from Mitzrayim was the source of their parnasa. It was avodah zarah for them. They gave a lot of cheshivas to it. And what we're saying is that in terms of us, because Mitzrayim is not just something that happened once, but it's something that constantly live. It's like everything in Torah. What I'm saying is, for us, we have to recognize that we shouldn't have this attitude. We shouldn't throw ourselves and our children into the Golden Farm, into the river, and to raise them up in this Goyish environment. Yeah, so we'll go from Daled. Pirush Hadvarim L'Maisa. What does it mean practically? Nidunis she'elas chinuch yeladim. When it comes to the question of raising children, what type of chinuch will you give them? Yesh lizker she'asu lahatbiyam benilus. Avodah zarah shalom. We have to recognize we can't dip them into the avodah zarah, send them into the Nile, the avodah zarah of the Medina. Meaning like this. We're going to explain it. We're going to bring about this a little bit because it's a very important point. I think people have to understand this. Begalim shel chipushe tachlis, with the purpose of finding like what's the outcome? What's the outcome of this education? We need to have like what are we going to be when we're older? That's sort of the type of education we're talking about. Because the true way it's meant to be is about Teres Chaim. And like we said before, we talked about the other sikha. When you send someone to yeshiva, the purpose of the yeshiva is not to finish shas, not to accomplish quantity. It's a quality type of learning. They're meant to transform themselves, meant to connect what they're learning, and of course, it shouldn't be sitting around doing nothing. And when they're learning properly, it's not about how much they accomplish, not that now they're going to become a rav and things like this. It's to learn because this is the Torah Hashem, and this is how we connect to Him. Ain't called Siba, Lachkes, Heirim, Achirim. You have to go and start asking other parents. She Yaldehem, Yigadlu, Sudarin, that the kids will be organized. Like, listen to this. This is very powerful, very funny. Lepleini binyan, Lepleini mechonit. This guy will have buildings, this guy will have a car. This guy will be a doctor. Erech Din. This one will be a judge. And this guy, minimally, will be the Metachzech Nalaim, will be a shoe shiner. This is what we're trying to achieve out of our education. Make something of yourself. But if you're going to send them to yeshiva, so what's going to be? Yigdal the batlan. He'll become a batlan. There says he won't even be able to shine the shoes because who biyad esam avresh doesn't know how to hold the brush. Oy vavoy, what's going to be with my child if he goes to yeshiva? He's going to be a Nebuch. Not going to be able to be a Shushiner. The lowest of the low he's not going to do. He doesn't know, he knows nothing. This is what goes on. And this goes on. This is not something that happened 50 years ago, which it did happen 50 years ago, but it happens now today. It's the same thing. And you see an article, and people complain all the time that my son doesn't have the tools to be successful in life. And this is what the Rebbe is discussing. And this is what the Parsha, this Parsha is talking about. This issue that exists today, that people argue this all the time and they complain. And there's the bigger from these outside organizations that are trying to influence and push and put pressure from the government's perspective that Jewish schools and religious schools, they should teach secular studies and things like this. And even inside the community itself, there's people that feel this way, and people feel like, if I don't teach them properly, so what's the answer to this? What's the answer to this problem? And we could think about it in ourselves. Sometimes we don't even realize we have this hanacha. So what's the answer? Yesh ladas, we have to know Shakadosh Baruch Hu Zad Mefanas Lakel. We have to recognize, we have to understand, we have to internalize that it's Hashem that gives us the parnasa. And Hashem does what He wants. You should teach them to your children, and you should speak to them. When you sit in your home, when you go on your trip, when you go to sleep, when you wake up. What is that? It's Torah. A person should do what is important for him and his children, and we have to do this. Teach them Torah. This is what the pasuk is saying in Shema. Teach them Torah. When you go on the way, when you wake up, and you go to bed, what is it? Don't teach them an education, secular education. It's about Torah. Yesh limser es hayeled lamed shehu atzmai ish chai ayidei Torah seinu. And it's very important. The Rebbe says you should send the kid to a melamed that he himself is a living example. It's very important. Teres Chaim. He could be a good teacher. Meaning like this: if you have an option between a teacher that knows how to teach well, but is not a living example of Torah mitzvahs, versus a teacher that's not as a good teacher in controlling the class, but he has a good example. So they're saying you choose the good example. In the long run, that makes the impact. Now, of course, you should learn how to be a good teacher. No one's arguing about that. But what we're saying is it's very important. And unfortunately, in those days, and it probably still happens now, that we're getting teachers that knew how to teach, but they weren't living examples. And they're saying it's a big issue. You're confusing the kid. The chai bahem, the mitzvahs of Torah, and he lives by them, by the Torah mitzvahs. Shamalamed yechanech kach es hayeladim b'derech chaim shel Torah u'mitzvahs. That the mechanech, that the teacher will teach him in a way of the Torah, in a way of Torah mitzvahs, but in alive. Through that, he'll save the children. And through that, also all the Jewish people. So the question that everyone's going to ask. So we see very clearly the Rebbe is saying the raising our children, to send them to yeshiva, send them to a place that doesn't teach them secular studies. But the question, and even though the question is what's going to be, the Rebbe says Hashem's in charge. Hashem takes care of the parnasa. So you're going to say, well, but I see from my experience that people suffer. People don't have it, don't have the skills. So I want to explain this a little bit. We're not saying that you can't learn English. We're not saying you can't learn maths. We're not saying you can't learn science. No one's saying you can't learn it. What we're saying is, the hanacha, the axiom, the way you look at education for your child is that Torah is the most important thing. And Torah is what we're kaching in. Now, just like your kid learns to tie the shoelaces, that's not a goysha thing to tie shoelaces. So too, learning how to read and write in a way that you guys understand, it's not a goysha thing. It's not a goysha thing to your kid to read English. And the question is, why are you getting your son or your daughter to read English? That applies to everything you're teaching them. You can teach them, when I was learning, when we started the cycle of Rambam, and we're learning Shchita. And it told me a lot of things I don't really understand. I don't know what's so I went online. I was looking for a diagram of like the neck of an animal and how it goes. And I can sit there and have a whole class for myself and for my son. We can talk about what do you want to call science or whatever it is of the neck of a cow and how a cow is made and how everything works. What makes a kosher cow? What makes a kosher cow? I can do that because I'm teaching Torah, and this is a better way of understanding Torah, and that's teaching Torah. That's the perfect. Or I can do it in a way, hey, let me make sure my son is not a batlin, and he's not going to know even how to shine the shoes. So come learn this thing. Come learn math. Why? Because you don't want to be a fool. And you know what's going to be when you grow up. And this is what the Rebbe is saying. It's not about what you teach them. It's about the hanacha, the action, the approach to the teaching. You teach your son English. Why teach him English? You teach him English because if he doesn't know English, he's not going to be able to be somebody, and people are going to laugh at him. Or you teach him English so he can read the Jewish books and he can know how to translate davening, whatever it is. Or he can go to the supermarket and buy things. There's nothing. The Rebbe's not against kids being able to go to the supermarket and buy things. And I think this is what we're saying. The actual matter, and what people complain is that it's not that, oh, my son doesn't know how to read the shopping list. The complaint is that my son is a Nebuch. Now you're going to say that, but there's people come out of yeshiva and they feel this way. They feel that they're a Nebuch and they don't have the skills. So I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I can tell you like this. If we do the yeshiva system well, and a person goes through the system properly, I'm not talking about a person that is there just because he has to. Like I have a friend that he's a teacher in yeshiva, and he said the yeshiva is not, I thought I came to teach Bachrim learning, but the yeshiva is really a youth hostel. They have to go to yeshiva. Like this is the system now. You have to go to yeshiva, even though not necessarily everyone is shaykh to it, but they get sent. They don't want to look bad, but the guy doesn't there for the right reasons. I'm not talking about that. That's a whole different issue. But if we learn properly in yeshiva, when we internalize the messages and we learn, and for sure, Chassidus, we learn Chassidus properly, understand Chassidus, when we internalize the message, for that Chassidus is a transformative, specifically in marriage, out of every other thing. But if you have that skill, if you learn it properly and you internalize the messages, you won't come. There was a stage, let's finish off with this. There was a stage when I was here, I was in America, after I got married, and I wasn't able to work. My wife was getting papers, it's a long story. And so people started pushing me, you should learn something, you should get some sort of like certification or something. So then when you get a chance to work, you can work. And I started to understand Chassidus a little bit. And I was telling myself, and as much as I didn't tell them necessarily, but I realized, I said, I don't need to go find a certificate. I need to go like do something to give me qualifications. I need to continue learning Chassidus and internalizing Chassidus and working on myself. Because when I do that, when the time comes for the opportunity that I'm able to work, I'll be able to find something that works for me. Because Chassidus works on us. We have to do the Avodah, work on ourselves to be the best people we can be, to do our shlichus in this world. And when you're working in that frame of reference, so then you're able to do things right. And that's what happened. I had the opportunity. Finally, I was able to work. I looked online. I found a random thing, and it fit me. Like I thought it fit me perfectly, and I applied. And from what I got told, there was 40 other applicants, and he chose me. And I worked there for 4 years until I finished, and I started doing Living Chassidus full time. And I think it's the same thing. When people come and complain, I don't have the skills. You can get the skills. I know plenty of people that got the skills after, and whatever they need. But it's the hanacha and the what we're talking yeshiva is along with kind of this. The yeshiva, I got everything I need. So I need to learn how to read and write. If I didn't get a chance, let me read and write. It'll come. And all the things you need, there's plenty of people that are very, very successful. I think it's the attitude. And I think this is a very important Tanakh. We have to understand, we have to learn this. And this is what we're talking about here. So Rebbe is teaching us that we have to understand, and as parents and as people ourselves, we have to understand the importance of the yeshiva. The yeshiva is what keeps the Jewish people alive. A person can go to a secular school and get the minimum amount of Jewish education, or even a pretty at home it's good, but the attitude is going to come. It's not the only thing is Torah mitzvahs. There's a whole world out there, and there's also Torah mitzvahs. And this is what's going to give us the ability, if we do this properly, that the whole world is like, you speak to shluchim and you hear the stories, and it's wow what they managed to accomplish. And it's because from the way I look at it is because the messages that they've internalized from yeshiva. And if a shliach would have gone to a secular school or half Lumei Kodesh, half Lumei Chol school, they wouldn't be as successful as they are. It's the yeshiva education that brought them to where they are. So Mitzvah Hashem, all of us, we should realize this, we should internalize this, and that's what we should kachin. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.